Good evening and welcome to the project presentation for the New Mexico 53 Drainage Improvements Project. The NMDOT project number is 6101091 and today's date is October 26, 2020. The project team includes NMDOT, Zuni Pueblo, and WH Pacific. NMDOT project team consists of Munaf Alalusi, who is the project development engineer, Burke Loki, who's with the Drainage Bureau, Stephen Giesler with Environmental, Lisa Vega, Arif Kazmi, and Delaine Barros with District 6. Zuni Pueblo includes Royce Gacho, and with WH Pacific, myself, Andrew Gallegos, Sheila Johnson, and Kevin Rucker. So the presentation outline includes the project introduction, so looking at the location and the project limits itself, all the project issues that we were made aware of before we came on board and what we've seen out there today, purpose and need for the project, why we're doing this, and project coordination efforts, previous coordination and future, proposed improvements, so the evaluation and what the proposed improvements are to correct or address the purpose and need. The environmental impacts that we've completed to date, and the next steps, where do we go from here? The overall project schedule of what to expect coming up for completing the project and getting into construction, and also how to contact the project team. So the project intent is essentially to reconstruct the existing drainage structures along the roadway that frequently see sediment buildup and deposition resulting from these large storm events, and that don't result in road closure for extended periods of time. So we're trying to reconstruct these structures, as you'll see here in a few minutes. The project will also provide new signing and striping based on existing conditions of those signs and existing striping. This project, however, will not raise the height of the road at this time due to budgetary constraints, but the structures that we'll be talking about will be increased in size. So it's going to increase the capacity and keep the roadway clear from overtopping water, essentially. So the project location is essentially located just east of Zuni. So there's Zuni Pueblo in here. And it occurs from milepost 15.5 to 19.5 and through here. And so this is a bird's eye view of that. Gallup is to the north on Highway 602, Rama to the east, and the Arizona state line to the west. Project limits, as we zoom in, include the milepost from 15.5 to 19.5, and they essentially start near the Zuni Pueblo limits, and they'll continue easterly along the New Mexico 53 highway. Over the years, there's been numerous events of flooding that have resulted in road closures and dangerous driving conditions. Mud flows typically cut out the community from the emergency services and resources, which is a safety and economic issue for the community. These are examples of what the structures look like today, as they are mostly plugged and have less capacity than what they usually would have. These plugged structures do not allow the storm flow to adequately cross the road to downstream arroyos. There is generally a lack of access for maintenance crews in this area. These photos are from a large storm event in 2013, which was just taken just north of Gallup. The first photo demonstrates the destructive forces of water that would eventually overtop the roadway. The second photo demonstrates the damage to the roadway from the water overtopping and undermining the asphalt from beneath. The third photo illustrates the existing pipes were not enough to pass the storm flow that reached the channel. These photos are a reminder why these projects are important and the fact that the roads need to remain open in cases of emergencies and access to the community. The primary purpose of this project is to construct new storm runoff conveyance ditches and sediment retention basins upstream of the highway, and to also upgrade the existing drainage structures to meet current drainage criteria for design storm flow. Another purpose is to provide access for maintenance crews for Zuni Pueblo and NMDOT. The project will also be replacing signing and striping along the corridor based on the condition of the existing signs. So previous coordination has been done with the Zuni Pueblo. As you can see, there's several dates on here that go back to 2016, where NMDOT has begun some of these field visits. They've talked to the Pueblo and to Tribal Council, and there's been several project meetings along the way. And of course, future meetings to be determined. There's going to be ongoing coordination with this project, with the general public, with the tribal community for the foreseeable future until the project is completed, it's constructed. This figure talks about the proposed improvements for the drainage structures. This is along Mexico 53 at the various locations. So the improvements include cleaning the existing culvert pipe at 18.29 mileposts and abandoning or filling the rest of the culvert pipes with lean fill. We'll also be replacing 20 existing culverts with 5 concrete box culverts that we show there. And this is an example of what they may look like, without fill and other material around it. We'll also be installing the sediment basins, which are the ponds, and the channels. And this is an example of what that might look like here on the right. We'll also be improving downstream erosion control, such as this riprap area here shown in the picture. And this will be occurring at each of these locations shown here for the drainage structures 1, 2, 3, number 4, and the 5th structure out here further down the roadway. 2 different right-of-way actions will be required on this project. One being temporary construction permits, which means that the area that is needed to perform the work by the contractor will be abandoned after construction and will revert back to the Pueblo. The second is construction maintenance easements. This is the area designated for NMDOT to perform routine maintenance on drainage structures, but will remain the property of the Pueblo. The area required to construct retention ponds and channels are shown in this table for temporary construction permits. Once the construction is completed, the property will remain the property of the Pueblo. In this case, what we'll need in order to get access into the construction site and perform the construction will be roughly 20 acres worth of property, 5 acres for each location, roughly. In terms of construction maintenance easements, as you can see from each of these locations, roughly 0.2 acres will be required for each location, with the exception of the 5th structure, which will need roughly an acre of property for access. And you'll see that here in a few minutes as to why that is. There will be access gates provided for Zuni Pueblo and NMDOT maintenance crews on either side of the roadway. This figure is showing an example of where the access gates may be placed during design and in construction. The right-of-way fencing will only be replaced at areas near the concrete box culverts, and the actual basins and channels will not be fenced, except while the contractor is working, which will be considered temporary fencing. I also want to point out that the channel and basin slopes are relatively shallow and shouldn't pose any safety concerns. For the crossing structure at milepost 16.62, this figure illustrates the proposed channel, sedimentation basin, and the concrete box culvert that will be constructed to drain the basin. The stormwater will collect and flow from south to the north, which will be collected at various points along the channel and conveyed into the basin, as shown. The basin will be designed to collect and store the sediment and permit cleaner water to cross the road through the box culvert. The existing 36-inch culvert will be replaced with an 8-foot wide by 4-foot tall concrete box culvert. So this is the same location as the previous slide, milepost 16.62. And this is really meant to just show the area that we're talking about for TCPs and CMEs. So the temporary construction permit would be needed to construct this, as you can see in green, highlighted in green there. And the more permanent construction maintenance easements are shown here in blue. So that's just what the DOT would need to, that area is what they need to access to perform the maintenance. The second structure on milepost 16.75 is similar to the first structure in that it would still build the proposed channel, sedimentation basin, and concrete box culvert. A riprap pad is also placed at the entrance and outfall for the pond for erosion protection purposes. The existing 30-inch pipe will be replaced with a 4-foot tall by 4-foot wide concrete box culvert. This next slide is the same location, still milepost 16.75. Again, just showing the areas, in essence, what we would need for construction for the TCPs and the CMEs at the crossing structure itself. The third location is located at milepost 17.05 and illustrates the graded channel, sedimentation basin, riprap areas, and the proposed concrete box culvert location. The existing 48-inch culverts, 2 of them, will be replaced with one 8-foot wide by 4-foot tall concrete box culvert. Similar to the other locations, this figure highlights the amount of right-of-way, such as TCPs and CMEs, required. The TCPs are outlined in green, and the CMEs shown in blue near the structure. The fourth location is located at milepost 17.41 and also illustrates the graded channel, sedimentation basin, riprap areas, and the proposed concrete box culvert. The existing 48-inch culvert will be replaced with one 6-foot wide by 4-foot tall concrete box culvert. And again, this is the required CMEs and TCPs for this particular location. The fifth structure at milepost 18.58 will not include the construction of a basin. In this case, there's a defined channel already, and the existing large structural plate arch, which is approximately 13 feet wide by 8 feet tall, is mostly silted in. The structure that we are replacing it with is a 5-barrel, 8-foot wide by 6-foot tall concrete box culvert, bridge class culvert. This structure is large enough to be assigned a bridge number from the NMDOT. In this case, the figure highlights the amount of right-of-way for the required CMEs. NMDOT forces will be able to access this area and maintain it on a regular basis to ensure that it functions properly. We anticipate that construction would last approximately 6 to 9 months and that some delays are to be expected. However, we are working on a sequence that would minimize these delays that would inconvenience the traveling public. We propose to close one lane at a time in order to construct the concrete box culverts. For phase 1, the westbound lane will be closed off while traffic is diverted onto the eastbound lanes, and a temporary traffic signal will be placed at both sides of the work zone that would allow vehicles to pass using only the single lane. Phase 2 will involve switching traffic to the westbound lanes in order to allow construction to be completed for the concrete box culverts, sedimentation basins, and channels to the south of the project. Zuni Pueblo hired parametrics to perform the biological surveys, and Zuni Cultural Resource Enterprises to perform cultural resource surveys and to determine findings. It was determined that no areas or identified with sensitive biological resources such as plants, animals, or noxious weeds. The project team will attempt to avoid impacting cultural sensitive resource sites as much as possible. Of all the sites found, 10 were recorded, which had been recorded in the past. They were found again, and 2 new sites have been identified. It should be noted that some sites may have unavoidable impacts. The New Mexico DOT Environmental Department will work with Pueblo and archaeologists to determine course of action prior to construction. Temporary environmental impact anticipated from the considerable land clearing will be required for construction and will minimize the footprint as much as possible, which will include revegetation to disturbed ground with native seeding and throughout the project limits. Monitoring will also be required near sensitive cultural sites during construction. So the next steps include continued coordination with Zuni Pueblo, continue to meet with utility owners, complete the environmental evaluation, and finalize the construction plans in summer of 2021, with construction actually beginning in spring of 2022. The project funding currently is $4,092,750. So the project schedule consists of completing the design plans, in this case 60% design plans by the fall, having the right-of-way acquisition finish up in the spring or summer of 2021, and final construction plans completed in summer of 2021, and the project letting in fall of 21, and construction beginning in spring 2022. So we would really like to hear from the community and hear what your concerns are, what your comments are. We would appreciate your feedback on this project. So different ways to contact the project team include the following. You can submit your comments and questions within the next 30 days through either email, through the folks you see on the screen. You can also send it through our mailing address to myself, Andrew Gallegos. My phone number is also available. And also through NMDOT, Munaf Alalusi, and through Zuni Pueblo through Royce. So the information is available to you to get in touch with one of us. Thank you for your time and have a good evening.